I called upon all three of them to take action, and the anticipation was electric. With a swift movement, I grasped the hem of my dress, lifting it up and over my head in a single, decisive gesture. Silence enveloped the room, heavy and charged, as breath hung in the air. 3 sets of eyes bore into me, filled with an intensity that suggested they were witnessing me for the very first time. I lingered in silence, withholding a smile, allowing the weight of the stillness to speak volumes. With each deliberate step, I moved toward Matthews, the air thick with anticipation, allowing the moment to linger and intensify. As I approached him, the air thick with anticipation, I leaned in and pressed my lips against his. With a deliberate pace, I moved forward, fully aware that none of them would dare to stand in my way. Before we plunge into the depths of this video, pause for a moment to show your support by liking it and hitting that subscribe button. It fuels the channel's growth, expands its reach to countless souls, and ensures that these gripping stories continue to unfold each day. Your presence means everything to me. It's time to dive in. Matthews held me close, his movements charged with an intensity that consumed all else around us. I leaned into the moment, breath catching slightly as he maintained his relentless, powerful rhythm. The energy between us was unrelenting and intense, as if he were driven by an unstoppable force. Even as he struggled, I flowed with him, my fingers gripping the sheets with a fierce intensity. Heat surged, rapidly intensifying, every movement escalating the stakes. I let out a sharp breath, surprised by the moment, piercing and unexpected, and he pressed on, unyielding. His grip tightened, yanking me upright onto my knees. He held me, grounding us in that instant. I reached back, desperate for connection. His response came as a low, gravelly sound that resonated deep within my chest, stirring something primal and raw. For a fleeting moment, his stride wavered. Then he leaned back into me again, each movement deliberate, charged with an intensity that made my heart race. He took a deep breath, overwhelmed by emotion. He stood behind me, a quiet presence close by, the weight of the moment crashing down on us both. I lurched forward, trembling, my skin ablaze and my nerves igniting with electric intensity. We lingered in that moment, suspended in time. Silence hangs heavy in the air. Almost there. Neither of us dared to move, caught in a heavy silence. Then he released his grip, collapsing beside me on the bed. My heart raced as I struggled to regain my breath. And then, at last, he broke the silence. "This could be a grave error," he uttered, his voice laced with uncertainty. I turned my head, my lips barely grazing the pillow, a whisper of intimacy lingering in the air. "Do you truly feel remorse for it?" He let out a soft, almost haunting laugh. "Not at all, but I have a feeling that my dad or Turner could hold the key to something crucial." I cast a glance over, my heart racing with anticipation. Why must it be this way? Something feels off about their behavior. Turner questioned whether I've been fading away. My dad keeps casting this piercing gaze, as if he's unraveled the truth long before I'm ready to confront it. I turned onto my back, the sheet cascading down to my waist, a moment suspended in uncertainty. "They harbor doubts." He paused, uncertainty gripping him. "Are you really not worried?" I stretched, my body alive with an electric pulse. "No," I said, a smile playing on my lips. "Doesn't this make it all the more thrilling?" The knock reverberated with a jarring intensity. 3 sudden, jarring knocks that sent a shock through me. The dawn had barely broken. Just as the aroma of coffee began to fill the air, I realized I hadn't even finished brewing it. Only a simple t-shirt clings to my skin, while the remnants of sleep linger in my eyes, blurring the edges of reality. I hesitated, my hand trembling as I pushed the door open just a crack. Kane stood there, the weight of his identity crashing down upon him, the air thick with unspoken words, as he faced the man who had once been his son's everything. Expression unwavering, gaze intense, as if he had been aware all along. "Morning," he uttered, the weight of the word hanging in the air. I wrenched the door open, forcing my expression to remain impassive. "I never saw this coming." He burst through the door, his eyes scanning the room with an intensity that filled the air with unspoken tension. He stood there, refusing to take a seat, his gaze locked onto mine. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on us, and I knew it was time we confronted the silence between us. I crossed my arms, a silent barrier against the world around me. "What is the story between you and Matthews?" I remained silent. He moved in, the air thick with unspoken words. "Do you really believe I haven't seen the way he gazes at you? The way he strides out of here, shadows clinging to him as if he hasn't slept in days?" I stood my ground, unwavering. "Perhaps he hasn't." Kane's gaze lingered, heavy with unspoken thoughts. "I won't pass judgment, but don't dare to belittle me by acting as if this is insignificant. I never claimed it was." His gaze lingered on me once more, each second stretching into an eternity. "You truly have no concern for how this appears, do you?" I entered, my presence so near that he could sense the weight of it. "I care," I said, my voice trembling with unspoken weight, "but not in the way you anticipate." His gaze fell, heavy and unyielding. The shirt hugged my frame, subtly drawing attention, and I made no effort to alter its grip. I allowed the silence to linger, heavy and charged. Then I reached for his hand, letting it linger just above my leg, tantalizingly close yet never quite making contact. "I know you've been watching," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "There's no reason to put on a facade." His fingers trembled with an unsettling urgency. "You could have come earlier," I whispered, my voice trembling with unspoken feelings. "Why must it be today?" Silence lingers, heavy and oppressive. I leaned in, the air thick with unspoken words, our warmth mingling in a charged silence. "Kane, I need to know. Are you here to put an end to this chaos?" I tilted my head, my breath grazing his cheek, a moment suspended in the air, charged with unspoken words. "Or are you simply weary of being cast aside?" In that moment, I pressed my lips against his, gradual, deliberate, and he remained there, unmoving. Kane stood in silence, the weight of the kiss hanging heavily in the air. His eyes darted downward, then shot back up, filled with unspoken intensity. A profound change stirred within him. In an instant, a hand found its way to my waist, igniting a spark of electricity between us. The other crept behind my neck, drawing me in once more, the air thick with unspoken tension. This time, the kiss intensified, steadfast, resolute, devoid of any doubt. He advanced with a heavy determination, each step laden with intent. As he pressed me back toward the couch, a thrill of uncertainty coursed through me, and I found myself unable to push against the inevitable. As he pulled my shirt higher, I instinctively lifted my arms, a rush of anticipation coursing through me. Eyes locked in an unyielding gaze. As his hands grazed my bare skin, I surrendered to the moment, as if I had been yearning for this connection all along. I urged him down onto the cushions, the weight of the moment hanging heavily between us. She climbed into his lap, each movement deliberate, a charged silence enveloping them. His breath hitched as I pressed closer to him. Unwavering, fierce, I rolled my hips slowly, just enough to ignite a spark of tension beneath me. "Do you still believe this is a mistake?" I breathed out softly. Silence hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. He didn't answer. I found myself uprooted once more. "Take your time, with greater intention," he replied with equal fervor. With hands gripping my sides, anchoring me as we swayed together, the air crackled with unspoken intensity. He moved with deliberate slowness. He allowed it to swell, the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. With each passing shift, the grip on his sanity slipped further away. I leaned in, my lips barely grazing his ear, the air thick with unspoken words. Then the facade crumbled. His hands glided over my back, igniting a storm of sensations within me, then plunged down once more, delving into the unknown. With utmost caution, the air grew heavy with anticipation. The tension between us intensifies, drawing us closer with an undeniable force. I pushed deeper with a fierce intensity this time, and he let out a heavy breath, cutting through his nostrils, head tilting back. chest rising and falling with urgency. And just as I sensed his hesitation, I withdrew. I descended from him with deliberate slowness. I snatched my shirt from the floor, urgency coursing through me, and with a swift motion it was slipped back on, as if the world had simply paused, leaving behind an unsettling silence. He sat there, gasping for air, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Uncertainty loomed over what would unfold next. "You should come to dinner tonight," I said, my voice steady, but the weight of the invitation hung heavily in the air. Kane's eyes widened in disbelief. "Shall we dine?" I cast a furtive glance over my shoulder, heart racing with anticipation. You, Matthews, and Turner stand at the precipice of uncertainty, each moment thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. His expression shifted dramatically. I filled a glass with water, the cool liquid shimmering as I raised it to my lips, anticipation hanging in the air before I took a sip. "I'll take care of the cooking," I declared, my voice steady yet laced with an unspoken weight. You arrive, driven by an insatiable hunger. Silence enveloped him. Time hung heavy in the air as they stood there, frozen in place, overwhelmed, lips slightly parted, a breath caught in the silence. Then, with a heavy heart, they turned and walked out, silence hanging in the air like a storm about to break. The knock echoed through the silence, piercing the stillness just after 6. A single piercing knock, then two that lingered, heavy with anticipation. As if caught in a storm of uncertainty, teetering between the urge to be gracious and the need to assert oneself. Cain had stormed out, silence hanging heavily in the air behind him. Yet deep down I was certain they would arrive. All three of them, standing there, a palpable weight in the air, each moment thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I slowly pushed the door open, my heart racing with anticipation. Cain stood at the forefront, unwavering in the face of turmoil. Matthews lingered just behind him, an air of unspoken tension hanging between us as he avoided my gaze. Turner hesitated, his weight shifting uneasily from one foot to the other, a palpable tension hanging in the air, as if he still possessed the luxury of time to escape. A smile flickered across my face, but it felt like a fragile mask, hiding the storm brewing within. Exactly when it was needed, they entered the room, their footsteps barely making a sound, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation. Each one teetering on the edge of doubt, their uncertainty palpable and heavy in the air. I donned a delicate garment, brief, unadorned, and glimmering just enough to capture the light with every subtle shift of my body. There is nothing beneath the surface. There will be no apologies, only the simmering dinner on the stove and the wine, already poured, linger in the air, thick with unspoken words. The table was meticulously arranged, the music barely a whisper, and the light cast a gentle, almost haunting glow. I embodied the ideal host, embracing each of them in turn, as if the world around them had fallen silent, and nothing was amiss. As if I hadn't felt the weight of my legs resting across Cain's this morning. I found myself wedged between Cain and Matthews, the air thick with unspoken words. Turner sat directly across from me, the air thick with unspoken words. Shoulders tightened, a palpable weight of unease settling in. Eyes flickering with urgency. He fought against the urge to glance over, his heart racing with every passing moment. He was faltering, struggling to meet expectations. Under the table, my leg brushed against Cain's, a subtle spark igniting between us. As silence hung in the air, I leaned in once more, desperate for a response. "Take your time this time." His hand trembled, a fleeting moment of uncertainty hanging in the air. That was everything. I leaned in closer to Matthews, my fingers grazing his arm, as I inquired about his week, the air thick with unspoken words. Then, with a sudden shift, turned to Turner. "Are you still involved with that girl from last summer?" His eyes flickered open, a moment of hesitation hanging in the air. Stammered, the words caught in a web of uncertainty, each syllable trembling on the edge of revelation. He shook his head, a silent storm brewing within him. I nodded, masking the storm within, as if it were nothing at all. Yet, My fingers found themselves slowly gliding along Cain's leg. Each passing minute at that table coiled with an intensity that was almost palpable. My voice fell to a hushed whisper. My smile hung in the air, stretching the moment into something profound. I filled their glasses to the brim, without a word of permission. Matthews's eyes flickered toward my legs, a tension hanging in the air between us. Turner's body tensed as he shifted restlessly in his seat. Kane remained utterly motionless, yet with each breath, I sensed a palpable change within him. As the last bite was swallowed, I rose from my seat, the weight of the moment heavy in the air, ready to gather the remnants of our meal. "Stay right there," I whispered, my voice trembling with urgency. "I won't be long," I returned, each step heavier than the last. The abandoned plates linger in the kitchen, a haunting reminder of what once was. All three remained in their seats, the air thick with unspoken words. Silence hangs heavy in the air. Warning. They stared at me, uncertainty hanging in the air, as if questioning whether this was still a meal or something far more unsettling, or perhaps something completely different. I came to a halt beside the table, the air thick with unspoken words. Locked eyes with Cain. Then it was Matthews's turn. Then it was Turner's turn. With trembling fingers, I grasped the hem of my dress. With a swift, decisive movement, I yanked it up and over my head. Silence reigns. Only the stillness, the heavy breath, and the suffocating silence linger in the air. All three of them stood motionless, caught in a moment thick with uncertainty. Matthews's eyes grew wide with disbelief. Turner appeared as if he had lost the very essence of life itself. And what about Cain? He tightened his jaw, a storm brewing within him, fist clenched fiercely against his thighs. I approached Matthews, each step heavy with anticipation, gradual and relentless. Each step lingers, stretching the moment into a taut silence. In that moment, I leaned in, our breaths mingling, and pressed my lips against his. Deliberate, unyielding, seizing. Matthews's hands gripped my hips tightly as I sank into his lap, the air thick with unspoken tension. His breath lingered, a heated whisper against the side of my neck as I descended, each movement deliberate and charged with unspoken tension. I carefully unfastened his clothing, each movement charged with unspoken tension, just enough to sense his presence beneath me. The soft, haunting whisper of fabric breaks the stillness, echoing with unspoken tension. As I finally found my position, his grip constricted with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine, fingers digging into my waist. His head fell back, a sharp breath escaping his lips. I advanced toward him, my heart racing with anticipation, unwavering and intent, allowing every movement to intensify. He confronted each shift with a palpable intensity. His lips grazed my shoulder, sending shivers down my spine. My back feels the rapid rise of his chest, a palpable urgency in the air. "Unleash everything within you," I murmured in hushed tones. "Release your inhibitions." And he succumbed. His hand crept along my sides, igniting a surge of anticipation, drawing me in tighter with each seductive sway of my hips. The couch groaned ominously beneath us, our bodies entwined, pulsating in a fervent rhythm. The air thickens with anticipation. The air crackled with the intensity of his proximity. His legs coiled with anticipation. His breath came in rapid, shallow gasps. Yet, I pressed on, refusing to relent. In that moment, I averted my gaze. "Cain," I commanded, my voice steady yet laced with urgency. He had been observing every moment, lurking in the shadows, his presence a silent weight in the air. Clothed and unyielding, jaw clenched tightly, fix your gaze unwaveringly. As my hand reached out, he moved closer, the air thick with unspoken words. I helped him loosen his outfit, hands moving carefully, each movement heavy with anticipation, slowly drawing the fabric downwards. Her gaze pierced through the air, unwavering and intense, as it clashed with his. He emerged, every movement laced with a quiet intensity. Yet, the strain etched across his features betrayed him completely. Continuing to press forward over Matthews, I leaned forward, tension coiling in the air around me. and drew Cain nearer, the air thick with unspoken words. His hand lingered at the nape of my neck, a subtle yet electrifying touch, as I drew closer. Offering a warm touch, I leaned in gently, each one laced with unspoken longing. Playfully provoking, one hand pressed firmly against Matthews's chest. The other lingered dangerously close to Cain's hip, a silent promise of what could unfold. The air crackled with anticipation, each breath a whisper of urgency, every movement charged with unspoken tension. Everything was heavy with an escalating sense of unease. I hesitated, drawing back just a fraction. "Stay near," I whispered softly. Then I turned my gaze to the one who remained utterly still. Turner, clad in every piece of clothing, yet the weight of the moment hangs heavy in the air. Perched precariously on the edge of the couch, as if uncertainty gripped him, leaving him paralyzed in the moment. I slipped away from Matthews. Heat pulses within me, a relentless force, and traversed the room with deliberate slowness. Turner remained still, a storm brewing within him, until my lips met his. Soft, enticing. In that moment, he released a breath he had been holding for far too long. I slowly peeled his shirt away, the air thick with unspoken tension. Observed his chest heaving in erratic surges. In that moment, I sank to my knees. With a deliberate and cautious movement, he unfastened his pants. Just before I grasped his hand, a surge of anticipation filled the air. He trailed behind in silence, every step heavy with anticipation as I directed him to take a seat. I sank to my knees before him, the weight of the moment pressing down like a storm ready to break. "Steady your breath," and leaned in, the air thick with unspoken words. Lingering, she pressed a slow kiss against his hip, the air thick with unspoken tension. Before pushing the boundaries even more, his entire body convulsed violently, fingers clenched fiercely at his sides. Legs tensed, coiled like a spring. I pressed my hand against his thigh, the heat between us palpable. The other loomed behind me, a silent force anchoring my every move. Kane emerged behind me, his presence a silent weight, steady yet charged with unspoken tension. His hands lingered at my waist, a silent promise hanging in the air. And he stepped closer, the silence between us heavy with meaning. His body pressed intimately against mine, igniting a surge of unspoken emotions. I inhaled sharply, my breath hitching against Turner. Struggling to find my footing, I braced myself as I immersed into the unfamiliar rhythm. Kane held me firmly from behind, a grip that sent shivers down my spine, every movement deliberate and heavy with anticipation. I aligned it as I pressed on with Turner. The heaviness of the moment enveloped us, binding all three in its grasp. After a heartbeat, I withdrew and pivoted away. Turner sat, eyes wide with disbelief. His breath trembled, a fragile whisper in the heavy silence. I settled into his lap, the air thick with unspoken words and electric anticipation. Lowered with deliberate caution. Struggling to find my footing, I wrestled with the unease until I finally felt a semblance of stability. He drew in a sharp breath, filled with uncertainty. His hands lingered in the air, a heartbeat away from claiming my waist. I reached back, my heart racing with anticipation. And once more, Kane stepped into the fray. Drawing nearer, their presence loomed ominously behind me. I arched my body, desperate to connect with them both. Discovering a new rhythm, they moved in perfect harmony, each step charged with unspoken intensity. In that moment, I extended my hand. Matthews knelt in the shadows, tension thick in the air. Observing, I reached out, my hand trembling, and he moved in, the air thick with unspoken words. I clenched my fingers around him. As my hand shifts, a surge of anticipation fills the air. With a delicate touch, gradually, with intent, his breath hitched, a fragile whisper escaping as he leaned forward, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His lips brushed against the side of my neck, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. His hands grazed my thighs, igniting a spark of electricity between us. But I had more to say. I stood up, my heart racing as I grasped Matthews's hand tightly, urging him to surrender to the cold, hard floor beneath him. Then I positioned myself over him, turning away, and I positioned myself with a careful, deliberate grace. I halted, my heart racing as I made the necessary adjustments. As the world begins to shift, an undercurrent of anticipation stirs, setting the stage for what is to come. Cain remained fixated, his gaze unyielding. I summoned him with a piercing gaze. He took a bold step forward, the air thick with anticipation. He positioned himself with meticulous precision and stepped forward, closing the distance between them, embracing our pulse. One hand resting defiantly on my hip, the other grazes my cheek, a fleeting touch that ignites a storm within. I pressed against Cain's chest, caught in the tumult of emotions as I swayed between them. Matthews lies beneath me. Cain looms above, every movement igniting a surge of heat that spirals ever higher. In that moment, I shifted my gaze to Turner. Unyielding, unwavering, eyes glued to the screen, anticipation thick in the air. Step closer. I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. He took a bold step forward, the air thick with anticipation. I extended my hand toward him, a desperate plea hanging in the air. Embraced him softly, even as my body surged with restless energy. Matthews stealthily navigates the shadows below. Cain's hand clenched tightly above, and Turner quivering in my grasp. Turner was the first to tremble profoundly. Breath quickens, a moment of release amidst the mounting pressure. I clung to him, my heart racing, until he reached his breaking point. Then, with a heavy heart, release him slowly, and shifted my gaze back to Cain, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. My hands pressed against his chest, the air thick with anticipation as the final wave surged ominously upward. Matthews's grip constricted, a silent storm brewing within him. His body pressed close, a wave of tension crashing between them, until he finally tensed with a jolt, breath quickening, a pulse racing with anticipation. Cain trailed behind, his heart pounding with anticipation. His arms tightened around me, holding me in a fierce embrace. His body trembled against mine, a raw electric charge coursing through the air between us. And I pursued, my body tensed with emotion, the silence pressing around us. Breath hung in the air, fragmented and tense. The heat intensifies. A rush of emotion swept through me, each moment intensifying the overwhelming surge of emotion. I stood frozen, unable to take a single step. They remained frozen in place, enveloped in Cain's embrace. Matthews's chest heaved beneath me, and Turner's hand lingered just beside mine, a silent promise hanging in the air. Gasping for air, I lay motionless, the weight of silence pressing down around me. Silence hangs heavy in the air, only absorbing the weight of the moment. To the heavy breaths that surround me, the entwined heartbeats, the closeness between us felt charged and real. I could sense the weight of each one, pressing down on me. Matthews, gentle yet profound beneath me. Cain, he clung to me, as if the very act of releasing his grip would shatter everything between us. And Turner, perched in close proximity, his hand lingered just above mine, a whisper of connection that sent shivers down my spine, as if releasing him would shatter his very being. I once believed I possessed great strength. Unshackled, I was whole on my own, needing no one to fill the void within me. But this night, it struck me with a sudden clarity. It struck me that one connection was never what I truly longed for. I craved all three. 3 men stand at the precipice of fate. 3 eyes, unblinking, observing every move. 3 breaths intertwining with mine, a moment suspended in time. Matthews stirred emotions I hadn't felt in a long time, igniting a fire within me that I could no longer ignore. Cain anchored that hunger with an unyielding sense of certainty. And what about Turner? He was the unexpected twist. Silence hangs heavily in the air, filled with uncertainty. Yet, when he was touched, he ignited with an intensity that scorched the very air around him. With all 3, I felt an overwhelming sense of completeness. I felt utterly complete, overflowing, finished, not merely within my body. Yet, beneath the surface lies something far more profound. In a realm untouched by any soul, where the air crackled with unspoken secrets. The void within me was at last utterly consumed.